Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's time for us to talk about the next installment of the Metal Gear Solid franchise. If you guys didn't know, I'm doing the Metal Gear Solid experience. I've done the first two games, it's up to my channel, and it's on the playlist, I'll link it down below. So, we're going to talk about now the third game, Metal Gear Solid 3 Snakeeater. It's perhaps my personal favorite game in the whole Metal Gear Solid franchise. Before I just continue saying it, I know there's a lot of people say there's a Team Metal Gear Solid 2 and Team Metal Gear Solid 3. I'm basically on 3 because 3 is a lot more different and it has a different feel compared to the first two. Because the first two look more a bit futuristic and more modernized, while in the third game it's a bit more old school, more basic. So that's my opinion on the third one. I think the third game is my favorite, and the story's kind of cool. I like the story in that game, but we're gonna talk about all of them in a bit here. So strap in. It's time to talk about Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, the third chapter of my 4-part series of my Metal Gear Solid experience. Let's begin. So, Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater came out on the PS2 in 2004 for very good reviews. And the game takes place, basically we're jumping down back the clock to 45 years ago when the game takes place. Metal Gear Solid 3 is the third game of the Metal Gear Solid franchise and the first game chronologically, because the game takes place in 1964 where we take control of a different Snake. We know it's the first two games we take control of Solid Snake. This time we're going to talk about a different Snake, but voiced by the same guy. So we talk about Naked Snake, who has been on a mission to find Sokolov and return him back to the States. So, and this is at the time, the Cold War was emerging, and a few decades ago, World War II was still kind of thing that people kind of talk about it. Kind of talking about it at this point. The Great Depression happened and all that type of thing a couple decades ago. So almost 3 decades ago. I know it's a long margin, but that's not relevant to the story. So MGS3 takes place in 1964 in the jungle setting. Yep, they had to change the setting, but this time it's kind of much more nature-like. Instead of more industrial and facility or city-like. So much more jungle setting, much more survival-based type area. So Snake's mission is to infiltrate a place in a jungle in Russia to capture Sokolov, and he manages to do it. So he manages to do it and found out that the boss, which is the boss is basically Naked Snakes. I like to call him Naked Snake because just people do not get confused, because people might say in the comments which snake you're talking about. So Naked Snake's mother figure slash kind of the person who taught him all the techniques and all that stuff. So she decided to defect herself to the Soviet Union. She was working in the States, and she was a kind of key player in the World War II. And he got captured, and she said that to tell Snake to go home and this job's not for you. And Snake basically fails to capture him and bring him back to the States. We'll get to Sokolov a bit later on why. Now, another thing I need to talk about is, the other people around, the characters. One of the things I need to talk about is the Cobra unit. basically is kind of like an organization based on Russia and all that type of stuff. So we'll talk about them later. We'll talk about the unit completely later in the character section. So back to the story. So the states, the Russia just found out that one of the people from the states infiltrated their own base, and Russia called the U.S. president at the time. It wasn't like Solidus. I think Solidus wasn't even exist at the time. Yeah, Solidus not existent. So said that your guys is like, hey, your guys is basically infiltrating our place. This is our secret, and it's our definitely ground and everything, all that type of stuff. And she said, if you don't bring evidence, like if you don't bring any evidence to support the claim that you're not responsible for what happened, for the attack, what happened, you'll be fine. But if you're all responsible, World War III will happen. So basically, Snake sent back to the place and called himself, and the mission called Operation Snakeeater. And his mission is to get Sokolov, in killing the boss. Yeah, killing his mentor. I think this is where kind of this game got a bit of an emotional story in some way. There are some emotional story came in with the second game with Hal and Emma. This one's a bit more like with Snake, the other character. I don't know. Snake is hesitant to kill his mentor because, you know, she's like the only person that Snake cared out of all the people around. So Snake has like two choices. Either can get his loyalty to his country or loyalty to the boss and go home. So Snake definitely, normally a guy, when you know someone, you know somebody, you don't want to hurt them, you don't want to kill them because you care about them so much. But Snake wants to prove, he wants his loyalty to be his country because she's fighting herself to the Soviet Union. Take that part right here, the boss defected to the Soviet Union. Take that part because that's going to be playable. We're going to talk about that later on in the story. It's a very important key, right? And Snake was told by Major Tom, which is basically the Colonel, Roy Campbell's, basically the Roy Campbell of the MGS3, to meet a guy named Adam, or a person named Adam. He'll tell about the mission and everything. So we went in to the same place, found Sokolov, and found out a lady with a motorcycle. Her name is Eva, and she decided to help Snake throughout his mission. So the next day, he met with a kind of familiar character, Ocelot. Yes, we found ourselves the youngest iteration of Ocelot. In this game they call me Youth Ocelot. I forgot to mention about young Ocelot. You meet Ocelot at the very start. You and Ocelot fall one-on-one and with his own guru and everything. And you escort Ocelot and Sokolov off Russia. And he got failed. And then on a second encounter, he failed again, and basically Snake basically outsmarted the young Ocelot and decided not to kill him. And Ocelot basically see him as kind of inspiration. It's kind of like a mentor kind of figure. These two fought in a cool boss fight, which is an awesome theme song, which I love that boss fight, by the way. He goes on the cave to fight one of the members of a team called the Cobras. The Cobras are basically a form of 6 people that are the Pain, the boss, or they call it the Joy, a armored looking guy with blonde hair, the Destructor, I think it's called, or Vulcan. You got the Pain, which is a guy using bees and horse nests. The Fear, which looks like a human reptile, a reptilian human. looks like reptile from Mortal Kombat or some stuff like that. It's kind of funny. I always call them reptile from Mortal Kombat. It's kind of hilarious. The sorrow and the fury, and finally the end. After traversing the cave area, you fight the pain, which is one of the bosses. So basically, Snake takes down every single member of the Cobra by himself. And I forgot to mention earlier that Logan told the Joys like, is Snake like become like a member of us? And the Joy said no, he's too young for that. He's too young for all this. After traversing the caves and defeating the pain, he went and met with, I can't remember the other parts of the game probably. I might just forget about it. Then he fought the fear. And then he fought by far the best boss in the game, the end, which I'm going to talk about the end boss. It's by far one of the greatest boss fights in video game history, by far my favorite boss fight in the game. Because it's pretty like, there's different ways you can defeat him, which I'm going to mention that in a bit. And I think I already mentioned that the sorrow and Joy have a son named Ocelot, so we have that. And then we see the sorrow is kind of like a ghost form because he's already dead years ago. So that's what happens. So now people say, what, he's a ghost or something? I was like, why is he a ghost? Because he's dead, so he's already dead. So basically he's running around basically in his spirit form. After traversing some of the areas, he found out to went to a base where he finds the prototype of the Shadowhawk and the Sokolov in there. Oh yeah, by the way, I forgot to mention about Eva. Eva was playing two personalities. Pretty much Eva played as herself, and she played as Tatiana, which is basically she's being like as Sokolov's lover. She just wants to stay close to him, forget the information about the Shadowhawk. And then we found out that Volgin had acquired something so-called the Philosopher's Legacy. It's worth $100 billion. And oh yeah, remember that one old guy with the cool suit? He said, yeah, the capitalism? Yeah, well, he got killed because the tractor was in his leg. So yeah, I think he was sent by the US as well. Can't remember. And then also with his growling like a cat, that was kind of funny. And he senses Tatiana like smell perfume and everything. It smells like it's like some type of like, I don't know, someone betrayed. So when the United States, Russia, China all form together, and then the Philosopher's Legacy is just way too much babbling. So Snake basically wants to recover the Philosopher's Legacy to keep in the States as evidence for his innocence, for the United States innocent, and will be set free from World War III. And then Fulga found out that there's like a scheme happening between them and all that type of stuff. And then we have the epic climactic part. Snake and Eva try to escape, and then the Shadowhawk, was controlled by Volgin, was chasing down, but ended up to be his death, or basically Volgin's downfall, and he died. I forgot he had to fight the Fury as well as the boss, so he didn't play much in the story. He's just there just for that boss fight, and that's it. So after defeating Shadowhawk, Eva told Snake that the boss is waiting for you around like the field, and then here comes like very much one of the best part, by far the most emotional part in the game, the fight against the Joy, or the boss. Student versus teacher. The prodigy versus the teacher. Who will prevail? Snake, Snake's basically after a long grueling 10 minutes of battle, Snake defeated the boss and decided the boss to kill her, and she said there's only one room for one boss and one snake. And before that, she, being a bit emotional, shed a tear because she cared about him like her own child. And here comes one of the best parts, and the part I showed in the intro. Snake pulled out the Patriot, which is the machine gun that the boss used, and killed her with one single bullet and then escaped. However, Ocelot came in, and it turns out that that so-called Atom is actually Ocelot. So Ocelot was there, was basically keep an eye, basically watches Snake's back the entire time. So and these two has like one final duel, and basically Snake won after the events and after retrieving the Philosopher's Legacy, and he killed the boss. Snake is Snake has inherited the title Big Boss. Yes, this is how the Big Boss came into fruition. And that's pretty much it. And Eva and Snake are basically have a honeymoon together. These two, they're madly in love after that. And found out that Eva, she was a secret agent. She was an agent she was like working for a secret organization from China, and got the Philosopher's Legacy, but found out it was a fake one. So yeah, Snake was just two steps ahead of her. So yeah, the story's pretty good. I really like the story of the series. It's pretty good. I know I might miss some parts. So now next up is the characters. Since this game takes place in 1964, the characters are basically pretty much the most unique set of characters. Pretty much the game has the most unique characters in the series. From Major Zero to Paramedic, which is pretty much a female Otacon, Saget, basically the Foxhound, the Fox unit, and Big Boss slash Big Snake. We're gonna call him Big Boss from here on in. Then we have the Cobra unit and Eva. And I love the environment of the game, much more lively and everything. Now for something called controls. Now the gameplay of this game hasn't changed much, but they integrated a lot of new features. Like when you play the game, there's different camos you can wear. Yeah, throughout the game you find different camouflages and different camos to use current situation. For example, use the tiger stripe around grassy areas. For example, you can use, for example, the ghosts, like a ghost camo for white places. And depending on your index on the top right corner of the screen, the higher your index, the more you better be invincible to enemies. So basically, it's much more grounded, and I love that feature in the game. You equip different face paint, even different outfits. It's really cool, and I love that feature so much. And this feature is kind of like integrated as 1.4, but in much more like simplified way, I guess you could say. Really good. I really love the style they do here in this game, which is really awesome. I love the style. So controls are basically stay kind of the same. They haven't changed much of the control scheme. One of the things they add in is a backpack. They add some new gameplay mechanics, like the backpack. You can take in and take out guns you need. Since this game has no rations, so this game doesn't have any rations. So you can go around the wilderness and you can kill animals, sedate plants to heal yourself. They add in a stamina bar. The stamina bar is very important below your health bar. The higher stamina bar, the better your performance, and the easier you can reach on health. The lower your your stamina, you'll have shitty performance and your health bar will definitely regen much slower. So you have to feed Snake every time he's growling. You hear like his stomach growl, so you have to feed him, or depending on like how low your stamina. So keep your stamina as high as possible. Oh yeah, by the way, Snake got stabbed in the eye, got shot in the eye, which is painful. That's why he got the eye patch. So that's that. I forgot to mention that in the video. So what else? The whole medicine system as well, the healing system. Sometimes you have different injuries, so what you can do is, depending on your injuries, for example, you use the different medicine bandages. Sorry. I love this system so much. It's much more like kind of a bit like more realistic. Yeah, more sense of realism. I feel there's not too many mega big robots and over the top shit. The last two games are. This one's much more like basic. That's why I love the game so much. It's much more basic stuff, like kind of stuff you would actually do when you're survival in real life, without them mega tanks and mega freaking nuclear weapons and big robots, all that type of stuff. It's a pretty good system, and they never implement these systems in the other games, which is unfortunate. I would love to see these systems return in other Metal Gear Solid games. Hopefully when MGS6 comes out, or MGS1 Remake, can get that system in, because those systems I mentioned are really good and had a sense of realism. It's really good. Now, bosses. This game has a strong lineup of bosses, pretty much the strongest lineup of bosses in the series, in my opinion. Every boss is unique in this game, especially like the fear. Like every boss has different, there's different ways actually you can kill the bosses in this game. You can kill them the stamina way, or pretty much the non-lethal way, or you can kill them the lethal way. The non-lethal way meaning using non-lethal weapons like a tranquilized rifle or the tranquilized pistol. If you kill them like that, you'll actually get your reward. You'll be rewarded if you kill enemies non-lethally. You're rewarded a camo. Yeah, a camo outfit. Every time you defeat an enemy non-lethal. If you kill them lethally, you cannot get their camo when you beat the boss. When you beat the boss fights. So that's pretty much how it is in this game, which is pretty much unique, and it's only for this game as well. Another unique feature. There's a lot of features in this game that are pretty much unique, and it's only like one time, but it's really good. And I love those unique mechanics. That's why I like the game. I think MGS3 at the time was ahead of its time, even more ahead than MGS4. I would definitely say that. Because they add like systems that are pretty freaking cool. That's one of the things why I love the third game more than the second and the first, and why I think the third one is my favorite. And why the third game, is my favorite game in the series. So there's different bosses ranging from the pain, the fear, the fury, Vulcan, and the boss, and the sorrow. By far my favorite bosses are the sorrow and the sorrow and the end are two of my favorite bosses. The sorrow is not really a boss fight. I know the sorrow you can do, it's just you can go through his nightmares, and every time you get hit by a vortex, you see a flash of basically the sorrow. The end, or definitely against the sorrow, you can just use a death pill. You find like death latched inside, and you get definitely a revival pill as well. So you basically come back to life. It's pretty tricky and actually kind of creepy. Kind of reminds me when I first played it. I was like, am I playing Metal Gear Solid or Silent Hill? Because I feel like I'm playing Silent Hill 3 or something. It's creepy and eerie, and it's really good. The end is an awesome boss fight. There's many ways you can kill him or defeat him. You can defeat him you can't even skip. You can skip his boss fight. But you can do is you can actually kill him while he's in his wheelchair. You can kill him with a sniper rifle, and you get a trophy by it. Another thing you can do, or you can fight him normally, which sometimes takes a while. Or the genius way, you can set the timer to like a week later, and then when you play the game, and you have to save it before, by the way. Before you do that, you have to save the game, change up the clock, and then come back. You get a secret cutscene for it, which is awesome. It's really awesome. I really love that boss fight has like different ways. It's pretty creative, I gotta say. Very, very creative. Really awesome. The sniping in this game has refined, and the sniping, I can tell you, the first two games were terrible, but I can tell you that the sniping in this game is excellent. The sniping in this game feels natural, feels good. I used it a lot when I played it. I love the sniper rifle, the SVD rifle. It felt more natural to use it compared to 2 and 1, when like the characters jiggers left and right, and you have to use the freaking benzodiazepine. I mean, you can still use it in this game, but I don't use it much in this one. So yeah, it's really good, really good. Like they really fixed the sniping controls in this game. There's no swim. There are some swimming sections, but it's just minor. Just like one part in the swamp, and that's it. Another thing I love about the game is if you meet Revolver Ocelot for the second time, and if you kill him, you'll get a kind of a secret game over. Roy Campbell said, "You have changed the future. You created a time paradox, which is awesome." And by the way, it's basically, if imagine this actually happened, that means the series is over. That's it. Everything is just completely over, literally. Could you imagine an alternate timeline? That would be amazing. Actually, if there's an alternate timeline of actually Snake killing Ocelot, and none of the series will like happen at all. Everything will be like basically normal and fine. So the difficulty, the game is just getting easier from here on in. The Metal Gear Solid game, like I think MGS3 is easier than 2. Same control scheme, doesn't change much. Nothing much. Difficulty is, the game is actually easier, and I died less than when I played 2 and 1 for the first time. I died less in this one. It's really good, and it's a pretty good game. That's what I'll say about the difficulty. Really good difficulty. Final thoughts on this game. This game's a 5 out of 5. Like, I give this game, I don't have any criticism on the game. And as well, you can actually see like Raiden, like a guy named Ivan that's dressed as a soldier. Basically Raiden. So people hated Raiden. I forgot to mention this. People hated Raiden, so Kojima decided to say, hey, let's make a character has his face and hair just like Raiden. It has literally a lightning freaking speedos, a lightning mark on his speedo. It was funny as hell, and it's just, I found it to be pretty hilarious. Yeah, it's pretty funny. I found it to be pretty hilarious, and it's actually, I laughed a lot. And when you wear like the whole like Colonel outfit, you can just beat the hell out of people, and they will have no problem. It's just, I found it to be pretty funny, pretty hilarious. Another thing to mention as well, that if you choose different, I play for the first time, or I play I like MGS1, MGS2, MGS3. I think if they like MGS2, Snake will wear a Raiden mask and he'll take it off. So it's pretty cool thing there. It's pretty cool when you change it. And in the third game, you can actually play Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake as playable games. If you have like the freaking the expanded version of the PS2, I don't know what it's called. You can play like the online multiplayer. It's actually the first MGS game that has online multiplayer, and you can just capture the monkeys and shit. It was funny when I first saw it on YouTube. It's not an HD version. I played the HD port of the trilogy, so that's enough for that. Final verdict, 5 out of 5, like I said. Best game in the franchise by me. So that concludes the third part of my Metal Gear Solid experience. So we played the first. So we got in 1964 with MGS3. Then we went to 2005 with MGS1, 2008, 7, and 2009 for MGS3. Sorry, MGS2. Now, the next part is gonna be the finale. We're gonna talk about Metal Gear Solid 4, probably the biggest game in the franchise. Of all the 4 games, this game is the biggest. And holy heck, there's a lot to cover in that game. And the game will take place in 2014. Yeah, the game takes place in 2014 when I'm from Reading. So, yeah. So guys, tune in for the final part of my MGS experience. See ya.